First off, I want to start this video with probably the most hokey statement in the world, but it's true. You guys are the best. Every day that went by before this milestone, I thought I'd never reach it. I guess that was just self-doubt getting to me because our channel's now in triple digits. And that may not seem like much in the grand scheme of things to viewers, what with your channels with millions and millions of subscribers. But hey, we're just a small channel having fun and loving what we do. To me, an individual doing what he loves, making this channel from the ground up with only my own 2 hands and what little I have to work with, 100 singular individuals took the time out of their day to click on my channel and say to themselves, yes, this weird bat boy is worth me clicking this button to assure that every time he posts, I will be notified of it. I willingly accept this individual's content to become a part of my life. I want to see his posts. And to all 100 of you that have subscribed to me, I can only extend my most sincere, most heartfelt thanks. My love, my appreciation, everything that makes me who I am, I offer to you with absolutely no rhetoric, but all the sincerity in my heart. More than just say thanks to getting our little channel up to where it is now, I have a few special things I want to do and announce in this video. First of all, a change of scenery is definitely in order. Something more comfortable. Much better. Now, picking what I wanted to do for this special was a bit difficult. I didn't want to just do a singular speed art and leave it at that. I thought about doing a review for something special to me, or telling an interesting story, but I can do all 3 at once. Today we'll be looking at the Mars Volta, my personal favorite band, and quote-unquote reviewing my all-time favorite album, Deloused in the Comatorium. Good evening, everyone. Before I get into the album, I need to talk about intent versus interpretation. I'm of the camp that believes an artist's intent is irrelevant to an individual's interpretation, most of the time anyway. A good artist should be able to present their art in a way that either conveys their intent well, or leave the material open well enough to be interpreted by the individual. De-loused in the Comatorium, I feel, is one of these interpretive pieces. It's surreal, it's descriptive towards its surrealism, and sure, if you don't have an eye for surrealism, the lyrics might come off as just pretty gibberish. But you've got to find meaning in it through the context. In this case, the context of vocalist Cedric Bixler-Zavala's vocals and guitarist Omar Rodriguez Lopez's playing. The music is the context. The lyrics dress the stage and give purpose to the context. All I'm saying is what I'm about to detail is my own interpretation of this album. You can interpret it however you like. Please don't let me stop you from forming your own thoughts, your own set pieces, feeling how you feel about this. I just want to share mine. Deloused in the Comatorium is a pretty straightforward story to give an overview of, but the bulk of the story is a surrealist wonderland. But first, we need our main character. His name is Serpentaxed, and he looks like this. Say hi, Serpent. If you're wondering why I made him a rat, you'll see soon enough. I always have reasons for my design choices. Our overview is pretty well laid out once we start the album with the first song, Son et Lumière, which is French for sound and light. But I have to warn you, this album is not a happy story. Its inspiration isn't happy either. Deloused in the Comatorium deals heavily with death, suicide, self-abuse, self-hate, grief, and it gets grisly at points. It's not for the squeamish. Disclaimer aside, let's get into this. Here we have our start. Serpentaxed injects himself with a chemical cocktail, attempting suicide by overdose with morphine and rat poison. He hasn't died yet, but his consciousness is waning. He can hear the nurse in the hospital he was brought to talking about how disfigured his body is from suicide attempts and drug abuse. The area he injected the cocktail into is probably even starting to rot. This is only the beginning, though. Deloused in the Comatorium details our main character Serpentaxed as he attempts suicide only to go into a coma and enter a surreal world of purgatory we can refer to as the Comatorium. He soon slips from our world into this Comatorium, and we start immediately into the next song, Inertiatic ESP. He finds himself in his Comatorium's version of our world's hospital, hearing lepers roaming the halls as he tries to escape. Before he can escape the hospital, he encounters one, reeking of feces and heavily disformed. But Serpent finally realizes what he's looking at, as its disformed face can only mumble, "I'm lost." What he thought were lepers represent Serpent's abused, deformed body left to rot in the hospital bed. Of course he recoils as he recognizes his own face, realizing that he's not in the world he was before, but not dead either. Now I'm lost. In a panic, he runs from the Comatorium's hospital onto a broken road bordering a dark ocean. This is where we meet our first secondary character, Death. Again, you'll see why the design choices later. Death chastises Serpent, warning him of the grief he will cause those around him. The fact that good people have to look over the horrific body he's abused, and basically calling him out for not being fully dead, but walking amongst a world of death's reach. Serpent mainly disregards Death as he walks along the broken road. Death leaves him with a few more words. This is Serpent's world. What happens is happening, and what will happen here will be his responsibility. Something that only he and the creatures that roam this world will know. Death then addresses the listener, telling us that we will never truly know what the Comatorium looks like. Serpent will be the first and last to know. The Haunt of Roulette dares sees Serpent find his way to what seems to be a metro for the dead. Spirits roam the platform showing graphically how they died, from nooses around their necks to having bled out from slashed wrists. The symbolism of death is heavy in this song. This experience leads Serpent to question the point of living in the first place, and wonder if death is equally as pointless. But he does know he wants desperately to die right now. But the train isn't stopping for him. He can't get on. His train is delayed. He can't board with the other specters, but looking in, all he wants is to join them, as they can truly die. It's a painful, emotional scene as he begs ghosts who can't hear or see him to let him in. Eventually, he just has to move along. The next song, Tírame las arañas, has no lyrics, but I just take it as Serpent explores listlessly, wondering what he can do or where he can go. Also, the title translates to Throw Me to the Spiders. Take from that what you will. In Drunk Ship of Lanterns, Serpent finds a shipyard leading into oblivion, a vessel seemingly floating on nothingness, in the middle of empty space. Engines dead, propellers rusted. The area is seemingly abandoned except for Serpent and Death, who rows by, continuing to jeer Serpent, reminding him of what he has to lose, and to really think about whether or not he's ready to die. Serpent returns Death's jeers by questioning who wouldn't try to end their lives in the condition Serpent was in. He would call for anyone to see if they were there, but no one does. Derelict crafts continue to line the shipyard until he finds a vessel that is currently running. The engines are silent and strange in shape, and the vessel looks more like an old house or some form of ruins or edifice to the dead. It's a very unique vessel, of course like something he's never seen before. He cautiously boards it and looks to see who's keeping the vessel running, if anyone. As lost as he is, he'd give anything for any direction. And that's when he encounters our next secondary character. The song describes a creature with 1,000 eyes. So, for simplicity's sake, I will be referring to this character as Thousand Eyes. Thousand Eyes is found counting some sort of currency as they meet Serpent. Serpent explains that he's lost and doesn't know where to go. Thousand Eyes seems quite happy to allow Serpent to join them in their vessel. They seem like quite a friendly individual despite their probably quite scary appearance. Thousand Eyes takes off into the void on their vessel with Serpent, but Serpent can't help but think back to his conversation with Death. At the end of the song, I can hear the machinations of the vessel firing up and taking off. Ariatarka is interesting because Ariatarka is apparently Maori, which I'm probably butchering, the native language of Polynesia, meaning your area. Possibly Serpentax's area, leading us to believe that this may be where Serpent belongs in the first place. As they sail along the void, Serpent and Thousand Eyes chat, Serpent conflicted about life and death at this point, from all that Death has chided him about. Serpent is in emotional pain because of this, especially since he feels so strongly that he doesn't want to live in the world he was. To have his convictions so viciously dashed by the very entity he's cast himself to so many times, he's struggling to find any meaning in what he's doing. He knows life is important to other people, and his life may be important to a few, but he doesn't find any importance in his life as it was. Feeling like he'd only be living so that those few people didn't feel bad, and that that's just how he's expected to act. And if he goes back to his old life, they'll almost certainly try to force him into some sort of therapy, to change who he is and how he thinks. He hasn't felt any pain other than emotional pain since getting here. He's glad that while he's here, no one's looking at him. He's not being monitored by doctors or hooked up to machines, or people waiting outside comforted just by hearing that he's still breathing. Thousand Eyes does their best to back Serpent up, to comfort him and let him know that it's possible that he just belonged here to begin with. It helps a bit, but they soon come into a city, and Serpent sees all sorts of things that not even his most feverish imagination could conjure. And he enjoys the sight, until Thousand Eyes' vessel is besieged by beasts. They look undead, and their fur looks like it's boiling right off their body at the moment. Thousand Eyes does their best to defend Serpent, but Serpent can tell what these things are. They represent his violent self-abuse and self-hatred, his apathy towards his own life, and inability to successfully die. They fight back the beasts, and Serpent knows their presence here is because he's still technically alive. While his body is still stagnating in the hospital, he needs to figure out how he can get back to finish the job, or slowly die in the hospital. Cicatriz ESP. Away from the city now, still on their vessel, having sailed quite a journey, Serpent and Thousand Eyes continue to chat, Thousand Eyes having come to really enjoy Serpent's company. But they've both noticed that Serpent's connection to the living world is causing all sorts of problems for the both of them, so Thousand Eyes agrees that Serpent should find a way back to finish the job. Serpent never wavering in this thought, the fact that he now has someone that genuinely cares about him and how he truly feels in the Comatorium only strengthens his resolve. Before coming here, he had hesitations, but now he knows the next time will be successful. He's going to make sure he dies, even as his body is trying to pull him back. This is just a small step for him, a dead end. Being here is precious to him, and when he wakes up, he'll do whatever it takes to return. He makes that a promise to Thousand Eyes. He's officially defected from the world of the living. He knows he belongs here. I believe this is where he actually wakes up, remembering his mission. Near the middle of the song I hear dripping, which I take as an IV drip. He's pretty bandaged up, feeling the pain of lying in a hospital bed for so long, and the pain from the surgery and skin grafts fresh on his body. This apparatus must be unearthed. I take that as saying he pulls out the IV and anything else hooking him up to a machine. Despite the pain, he fights through it and gets out of the bed, escaping from the hospital. He expresses his gratitude to Thousand Eyes and Death both for setting his mind straight on his path. Someone to understand how he feels and wants for him what he's wanted all along. To not take or throw around blame, and strengthen his resolve. Make no misunderstanding, this is Serpentax's death march. He goes back to where he lived and sees himself in the mirror, not even recognizing himself after all the surgery and the fluids they filled him with. He looks broken, but healthy. He starts up a conversation with himself, clearly out of it. He's seen death and a world after ours with his own eyes. So he makes a few final remarks about religion into the mirror before stumbling out into the city, onto an overpass, looking down into the traffic below. Taking another moment to think about the people who have kept him bound to this world. They've always been talking to a dead man walking, wasting their time. Serpent doesn't even know the body he walks around in, equating his life to a straw effigy that needs to burn. He casts himself off the overpass to die. The second to last song is Televators, and it takes place from the perspective of a new character. We'll call him, I guess, Marsworks. Blight, why Mars? And are you going to explain this design choice? Well, I'll be completely honest with you here. De-loused in the Comatorium is an epitaph for the real Serpentax, a man who was a close friend of Cedric and Omar by the name of Julio, who was a surrealist artist and poet whose art inspired the style of the Mars Volta. He was known for being self-abusive, drug-addicted, and suicidal. Serpentax is almost entirely a mirror for Julio, even the way he committed suicide. Like I said before, this is not a happy story. But without it, we wouldn't have the Mars Volta. We wouldn't have De-loused in the Comatorium, an album that has sparked the imaginations of millions, that has driven artists to create, breathe life anew from what Julio left us with, to celebrate a troubled artist's short life, but heavy impact on the world as a whole. That's why I defend to the death that this album should remain as an interpretive piece. Whether it inspires you to create, helps you understand something, or helps you find closure, that's what's correct for you. De-loused in the Comatorium is what you need to hear, to decide for yourself how you hear it and what it means to you. As for this video, we still have 2 songs to cover. If you thought the Haunt of Roulette Dares was grisly with the imagery of death, we get quite a detailing on what Serpent looks like after his death. I interpret this as beginning with Mars being called to identify the body, detailing quite gruesomely how he was hit by a tow truck, the hook digging into his neck, tearing out his throat, his lips ripped open by his teeth as he smashed against the asphalt, the teeth also being broken out. Now Mars is at a loss for how he feels. He goes through a complicated grief. He goes about trying to blame first Serpent for not seeking help, then lashing out enough to blame the entire city, then blaming himself for ever being in this situation in the first place. He was clearly suffering. He finally decides maybe it's better this way, even though it's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. At the moment though, he's gone into an emotional numbness. Probably a defense mechanism. He decides after a while that he's mourned enough. Take the Veil Serpentaxed, the final song brings us to Serpent sitting in Death's boat as they have their final conversation in the album. Of course, Death is impressed with his steely resolve in facing certain death, but also chastises him for the suffering he caused Mars, who had tried to bring positivity into the life of someone who was clearly opposed to all sources of help. Serpent assures Death that it was going to happen one way or another, that his death was assured, even if he hadn't come to the Comatorium beforehand. He takes a moment to reflect on what he's learned from the living world and the Comatorium, knowing quite well that he belongs here, rather than in the world of the living. He has more than welcomed death to take him now that he knows for sure, and knows very well just how present death is, detailed by him claiming the ossuary, a place where bones are kept, is spilling by the day. Death casts him back into the Comatorium, where he retracts Thousand Eyes' vessel to rejoin them in exploring the world. Death gives him one last warning. Now that he actually exists in this world, anything hostile can come after him. Virulent hives, and since he's already dead, he'll experience horrors unimaginable to mortals. Horrors beyond death. He issues Death a series of rhetorical questions, basically telling him he knows what he's gotten himself into, and he welcomes it. Whew, that was longer than I thought it would be. I have no clue how long this video is going to be, but hey, it's supposed to be special for a reason. I'm sorry to say, but I doubt I could do something like this again. De-loused in the Comatorium is just that special and invokes such emotion and creativity. It's really all I can do to make this simple video explaining what I feel about it and how I interpret it. Maybe it's a bit more hopeful than most interpretations, but that's just my instincts as a storyteller. Everyone has their own personal tastes, and this is how I feel about the story of this album. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of work for me, a lot of art needed to be made. But hey, if you're looking for something different, then I have a surprise for you. In the description should be a Google Drive link. Want to know what it is? It's my review for my favorite Halloween special that I never got to post on YouTube because Disney's robot assassins kept sniping my video every time I tried to post it that night. Disney's bots kinda screwed over that entire event, but hey, as long as people can watch my videos, I'm happy. I'll be using Google Drive from now on to give special videos, show the unedited for copyright reasons versions of videos, allow people to watch videos that have been shot dead by corporate robots, or would just be impossible to post on YouTube for copyright reasons, and also do the odd podcast style thing, like something I have planned for the near future. As for more news for the channel, I will attempt to start posting more highly edited content like this more frequently. I have a lot of ideas, but it's just something I'm going to need to put an extraordinarily large amount of effort into. Again, I'm only one guy, but hey, if I come out of it with great videos that people will enjoy, then it will all be worth it in the end. I wouldn't be doing this if people didn't enjoy it. And that's why I'm so heavily emphasizing how much I appreciate how many people have come to subscribe to this little channel of ours. And that's why I want to do one more special thing for all of you. You may have noticed the Let's Plays have kind of gone on a stall, mainly just to give me time to finish this video so my next decently sized Let's Play can be decided by you guys. Now before I give you the options, I just want to let you know I intend to play all the options at some point. You're just helping me decide which to play first. So here are the options, choose wisely and cast your vote in the iCard above. This is unscripted right now. I just wanted to say real quick that I did not expect this video to take 4 months to make, but now it's finally over. I'm very happy. Also in that time, our channel got its first official fan art by MintyCat. MintyCat, if you're watching this, thank you so much for this. I love it so much. I was so happy when I found it. Sorry it took me so long to find it. I was away from Twitter during that time. But yeah, if you want to make fan art for the channel, then I'm super happy to hear that, and I'd be super happy to show it off on videos of more highly edited nature like this. So if you're interested, feel free to hit up my Twitter and send me those fan arts. Word of caution though, expect really weird stuff around my Twitter. I mean, this channel's already weird enough as is, but just a precaution. Now I need to tend to some other things, get this channel ready for whatever you guys decide on. I'll give it a week before I take the final toll, and then we'll get started on that series. Again, thank you guys so much for everything. If you want to help the channel grow, subscribe if you aren't already, and spread the word about what we have here. If you want to help me more directly, please consider commissioning me. I'm always open. As for Deloused in the Comatorium, I left out a lot of things. Explaining every line of this album would have taken forever and probably wouldn't be very fun to listen to. So, I'll put up another poll. Should I do a solo podcast type thing to put on Google Drive of me explaining my thoughts on every line? Let me know what you guys think. I need to keep myself busy so we can keep growing this channel into something amazing. Until then guys, I'm Blight Drake. Good night, one and all.